The promise ring. On
yeah, I have special underpants. Well, the other question I had is that as the only member of this group that has a child, Doug, did you ever run into any of these issues with your daughter?
No.
Of like dealing with any of that stuff? Puberty stuff.
Puberty
well,
stuff.
I'll even say this. Sexualization too early, where you went, I'm not comfortable with this yet.
Like bras or...
No. I mean, there's I think all of that for a dad when you have a daughter.
Right.
Sure.
That it's like, what do you mean she's buying bras already? But
right.
Nothing that bothered me.
Okay.
I mean, everything was expected. I also grew up with 2 sisters, so
Okay.
Nothing was a shock to me.
And like, when did she start bringing boys home? Do you recall?
Yeah, well, I mean, she had a boyfriend in high school.
Okay.
Which was, I think her first real boyfriend was maybe junior year.
And that felt okay to you? Like you...
Yes.
Did you have concerns about it, but still were okay with it?
I think I had normal concerns about relationships and about probably more so about her feelings and being hurt than other things, because I think we've always been very open and, forthcoming with Chloe and vice versa.
Right.
As she grew up, if she had questions, she was very comfortable. I mean, most questions truly went to my wife.
Right.
And I think they were answered honestly. So I don't ever think there was something, looming in the background that we weren't aware of, or something that might, shock us.
And I think that's what Savage got into, was basically like, this mom is being too aggressive, too overbearing. And I think that, it sounds like you had a very healthy relationship with your daughter, and she felt confident or comfortable coming to you and your wife about the things that she was experiencing at the time, which is what a child should do.
Yeah. And I think truly, I mean, that aggression from the mom, based on the episode and what we heard, it was just such a misplaced aggression.
Right.
You felt it was an overreaction.
Yeah,
Totally.
well, not just an overreaction, but it was like, what was the deep-seated fear
I think
that
it was
this mom
that
had?
my child is now engaging in the inarguably adult world of sexuality. And again, that may not have been why he was shaving him, but I think that's how she felt, probably.
Right.
And I've listened to other episodes, not one we listen to now, where it was a mother, by the way, someone who introduced herself on the call as, my husband and I are a poly-heterosexual couple living in the Midwest. So already maybe a little different than at least the majority of American couples, and that they're polyamorous with kids. And she wanted to know, should I leave lube on the tip, not say anything about it, but leave an appropriate sexual lubricant on his nightstand. It's like, hey, I'm not saying anything, but it's there, which is a little misplaced, because it's not like he's going to go, maybe this just showed up here and now I can use it. It will 100% be one of my parents who has a job and makes money and can buy things, place this on the table. And we won't get into that, but it was the exact opposite of this woman freaking out because her child had, let's be honest, shaved a little bit of hair.
Right.
And another woman going, hey, I want to help. I want to facilitate my son's masturbation. Which, again, being totally comfortable in a sex-positive house with the fact that young men or women, as they hit puberty, are going to want to learn more about their bodies and have a drive to do that, isn't the same as, gee, let me help you, which may have been I'll tell you right now, a bridge too far for Dan Savage. Doug, I think this has been a very sex-positive attitude. And I think we've had our own little podcast this week about sex, love, and relationships. Now, Doug, I was going to say, mix two things that make you uncomfortable. Initials and acronyms, particularly for longer phrases. And 2, human sexuality. Except I think Doug proved today, Doug's A-okay with human sexuality.
Yeah. He's got some views that are, maybe more conservative than others.
Well, it's a different generation. Doug is the oldest among the three of us.
He is very old.
But maybe we're going to change our minds after we hear Doug's answers to Sextra. Read all about it. The name, I'll admit, I came up with just now and probably will change later for the game we're about to play. Now, Doug, you may not know this, but considering Dan Savage has been doing this for a hell of a long, actually almost as long as you've been married yourself to my lovely sister. It's just come up a lot this week. This is maybe the most Candace-heavy episode that we've had so far. You're welcome, Candace. Doug's not the only star of the show this week. And because he's been doing this for so long, he's listened to by so many people, he has introduced some words, or at least popularized some words and terms into the language of sexuality. What we call neologisms, which are kind of emerging words or phrases, and maybe they haven't taken on broad adoption yet, but they're coming up, and a certain category of people know them. Maybe something like this was a few years ago, like on fleek, or the new meaning of low key, things along those lines. That there's a good chunk of society that may not know what they mean. But there's a group of people in the know as these words kind of percolate through our society. And again, many of these are attributed to Dan Savage and his either column or his podcast, or at least their popularity is attributed to them. Now, as we often do, because I'm going to be the one that's running these by you, throwing these at your face to see if they slowly dribble down your cheek, I'm going to be throwing them at you as well, Brandon. As always, you get to play along. Just like when it's you controlling the game, I get to play along.
John, spray me with your words.
I'm going to hear that.
Shoot me right in the face.
I'm going to liberally just shoot this right at your chest.
Just apply them on me.
After the theme song.
Oh, right. Particularly for Sextra, read all about it. Brandon, give us by the way, theme song at appropriate length and volume. Those are your only restrictions.
That's a real challenge there.
I feel like you're trying to censor me. And I'm like, Sextra, we're gonna read all about it. You're seeing the headlines, you're learning about bodies. Yeah. I
thought that was perfect.
Nice. Hey, very nice.
Doug, I'm going to start with a softball. I'm going to just gently pitch this moist, wet ball right into your supple, smooth hands. Doug, what's pegging?
Am I just supposed to guess if I don't know? Because I don't know.
You do not know, okay.
No.
So you don't know that term. Brandon, do you want me to throw it to you because I know you're going to know the answer, or is it just more fun to hear what Doug... Let's hear what Doug thinks it is, then I'll throw it to you.
What you can do is, let's have Doug make a choice because I do know the answer, and I'll be able to tell him.
It's going to involve explicit sexuality of some kind based on today's show. What's pegging, Doug?
I don't know. So I'm going to say it's sex with multiple partners at the same time.
That's
okay.
You know what that is. That's called an orgy.
That is an orgy.
Think about the word pegging. What does that make you think of?
Okay, but I'm saying, let's just say only one person doing any penetration.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying. So kind of you've got a bunch of either anuses or vaginas lined up, right?
Just lined up.
Just
in a pretty little row.
Doug, they're all appropriately lubed, whether it's with natural lube or some kind of water-based lubricant.
Yeah, don't use oil.
And it's one individual who's having penetrative intercourse with each of these holes. That's what Doug thinks it is. That's what's going on in Doug's head. Brandon, what's pegging?
So I was really hoping that Doug would go for some sort of pirate themed.
Sure.
That's what I was really hoping for.
By the way, we're going to get to that term later.
Oh, fantastic. So pegging, Doug, is when a woman puts on a strap-on where it's a phallus and she has sex with a man in his anus. So she fucks him in the butt with a dildo strap-on.
Right.
And as a consensual act, hopefully. And that excites him and gives him sexual pleasure, and hopefully her as well. There are so many tools, I'm sure, that can be used in this purpose and practice.
Just a reminder to our listeners, today's show will involve some sexually explicit language, so if that's something that might bother you, you've got some kids in the room, you might want to send them out, or maybe just skip over to number 12. Doug, you stay. Doug, you can't fucking leave. You stay. You right where you are.
You're going to get pegged if you leave.
Right. We do have a woman in the other room with a dildo, and she is just...
theoretically, Candace is super excited to try this out.
I gotta tell you, well, don't do that.
Theoretically, I say. Theoretically.
This is the only podcast my wife listens to, so maybe not throw her name around so much.
Doug, what's GGG?
Giggity.
Okay. So you think this is some kind of Family Guy reference?
Yes, that is what I think.
Okay, that's Doug's entry into this one.
I don't know what GGG is. Is it just the letter G, letter G, letter G?
Correct.
Okay.
Triple G.
I'm wondering if it's
it's
not
an
Gennady
Golovkin.
An initialization where it's like gloves, guts, and
glory.
Gremlins.
Glory hole.
Oh, no, it's not glory hole.
No.
What would it be?
I'm going to say it's a little gentler than all of these things.
Germs, and
steel.
Steel.
Right.
It's gentler. Gentler.
It's a little gentler than you'd think. And that is not a hint. None of the G's stand for gentle.
No, yeah.
But it's a less vulgar or explicit than you'd think.
I'm wondering if it's like... Shoot, I don't want to take too long on answering this because we got to move along. We're getting late in this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Gloves... No, I don't know.
Well, hey, Brandon, that's a great try.
Give me a hint.
I'm not going to do that. I understand why I'd want to, and if this wasn't an hour and a half from the podcast, I would. I know you do. Hey, we're all winners here today.
Yay.
It's good, giving, and game.
Oh, okay.
Right. So you should be good in bed, giving in that you should be concerned about your partner's pleasure.
Yes.
And game, meaning when we say, that person's really game, up for anything. Exactly right, Brandon. You got it. And this has a political slant to it.
That.
And I'm going to say 100% you know what this means. I'm going to run it by Doug. Doug, what is Santorum?
Woohoo!
I don't know, and I'm based on Brandon's reaction. I don't think I want to hazard a guess.
Okay. I bet I peaked on that one. I apologize to our listeners at home. If anybody is unsure of whether or not they can be part of this, just know that this is sexual content. So Santorum, Doug, is named after a politician named Rick Santorum from Texas.
He's a senator. Uh-huh.
He's a senator, and he is very much a anti-gay, anti-queer senator. So what they did is they went on the internet and they found a way to popularize it so that if you looked up Santorum on Google, what you'd end up getting is not...
by the way, this was this all originated...
Was it
Dan Savage is the one who said...
Good for you, Dan Savage.
Yeah.
So what they did is they made it so that anytime you Googled Santorum, what you got was a description of...
Well, he first said...
a definition of his name.
Let's determine what a Santorum is going to be. And then you're right.
Okay.
He made sure that
he
became...
gamed that Google system, that logarithm.
So what did what did he decide on?
Santorum is a combination of fecal matter and lubricant as mixed together when being fucked in the ass.
Right. So what might be the result?
Wait, no, we got to describe Doug's face because I don't think
I've
ever seen
what I liked about it was it was quite subtle. Doug's, he put his hands on his glasses.
Yes, he
if
did.
You can picture this at home, kind of slightly adjust them as his eyebrows went up.
Yes, and he actually did close his eyes a little bit tightly and his mouth puckered just a little bit.
Right, much like he was kind of a British gentleman, maybe from the 1960s, whose son came home and went, "Father, I'm thinking of not becoming a barrister, but instead I'd like to open a bakery here in Essex." And the dad went, "Oh, son, don't know about that. Might not be the best idea for." That was what we just got from Doug. Although we were talking about what's often referred to as a frothy mixture of lubricant and fecal matter.
I've forgotten frothy.
Brandon, you're killing these left
Thank
and right,
you.
buddy.
I got to tell you, the biggest problem with that is just even the word fecal matter.
Sure.
We can call it poop or shit.
I know Doug's attitude is if
not.
it's fecal,
or just not.
It matters.
One of my favorite jokes. Shit, I'm not going to be able to do it. Can't cut this out.
Okay. That's going to be edited out
Yes.
now, and I'll probably leave it in. What is the campsite rule, Doug?
Pack it in, pack it out.
You're actually very close, because that says leave it as you found it, right? Pack it in, pack it
Basically,
out. That's the campsite rule. What do you think in regards to either love, relationship, or sexuality that might mean?
I don't know. Not to force anything on someone.
You're close. You're close. And now, Brandon, do you know this specific?
I don't know this one off the top.
Okay, well, Doug's very close. I mean, the first thing he said is, hey, pack it in, pack it out. In other words, it's leave no trace is basically a campsite rule.
Is it
if
cruising?
you have trash, take it out. What was that?
Is it related to cruising?
Explain what you mean.
So, like, cruising is when gay men go to
yes.
public
I know
areas
cruising
to have sex with each other.
Right.
And maybe it's something like, don't make it so this area is clearly
I
a
think
place
that's
where...
you're getting too literal.
Oh, okay.
Which is a physical space in which you had sex.
Then I don't know.
This is it's specifically about, or predominantly about, it can apply to any relationship.
If you get too close to the fire, you're going to get burned?
No, well, now we're not at the campsite rule, which is leave it as you found it.
Right.
Remove, don't leave it any worse than you found it.
Right.
Do not damage this area. So the next person that comes along, finds the same lovely campsite you found. This can regard any.
Don't force sloppy seconds on somebody.